Yes, sir. It is the Devil's Puck Luck podcast, where we are your hosts over here, Adam Armbrecht, covering the Brooklyn Nets on the Locked On Nets podcast with my boy Doug Norrie. And over there, it is the 20-year, wow, that makes you old, season ticket holder for the New Jersey Devils, Danny McDonough. How are we, sir, as the offseason rolls on? Officially, it is over. The Stanley Cup has been awarded to a bit of a, I don't want to shock anybody. The Golden Knights won their first Stanley Cup, and now we get to talk offseason.
Yeah, I mean, we were close to our predictions, right? I think, didn't we both have Vegas in the Cup? I forget now.
I had Vegas in the Cup. I think you had them going out before. We might actually
No, I had them in
Oh,
the-
you didn't
I
have
had them in the
Florida
Cup
going.
against
You didn't have
Boston.
Florida
Yeah,
going,
yeah,
right. And then, unfortunately, I picked Florida to win.
Yeah, so that's all right.
That was a swing and a miss, but it was a lot of fun. And we'll talk about that on the back end here, the state of the NHL, because some of the numbers came out. Wasn't the best.
Yeah.
However, Devils-centric. The big news, the latest news, is Jesper Bratt signing an extension, 8-year contract, $63 million in total. Before we'll talk numbers here, but just your instant reaction of bringing back Bratt, 24 years old, committing to the franchise long term.
I love it. I was worried, and I said it from the jump. I was worried. I didn't know if they were going to get this deal done because I thought Bratt's agent might have had a way too high price tag. But I think that the fact that he's here for 8 shows that he knows this team is going to be good for a while, and his commitment to this team, and it's just solidifying the core. And I think that's what we wanted from the jump, and it's under the Jack Hughes money, which what we talked about, it needed to be.
Yeah, you want to have that stability, at least at certain key positions. Breaking down where the money comes, 7.875 AAV on this contract, and descending in terms of value. Starts out in the upcoming season at $10 million, and then $9.98, descending down to 7.2 over 27, 28, and 2029, before 6.6 and then $6 million in the final year. Now, you can look at this positively in two directions. One, Jesper Bratt wants to be a part of it, so he makes it team friendly. They can continue to make moves over the life of his contract. And I'll say it out loud now, because that's a long ways away. It also does give you a friendly contract to move potentially as you start to shuffle. But in the short term, great value up front. And as Fitzgerald mentioned here, I'll just hit the quotes. It was always our priority to keep Jesper Bratt here long term. I value and commend his commitment Jesper made to this team with this contract. Obviously, he's a player that had the longest point streak to start the season in 2022-23 in franchise history, and one of only 10 Devils to have 70-plus points in consecutive seasons. Like, this guy is a cornerstone piece for this young core.
100%. And I know you look at the playoffs and people are very disappointed in his playoff performance, but you look at the overall picture and the overall player here, you're getting a incredible top 6 forward, and you need that, because think about it. If we didn't sign him, you got a gaping hole right there. You got...
You sure do.
So your core is going to look a lot different without Bratt. You need him in your top 6. And let's talk about Fitz. Fitz has been absolutely incredible, and to me was robbed of GM of the year. I thought that he was general manager of the year. I really do. We talked about it earlier. Only the second time in NHL history, a sign and trade with Severson to the Blue Jackets, which we'll get to. But for Bratt, I think it's phenomenal for him. I think it's phenomenal for the team. It's a team friendly type of contract. And we talked about this, stacking the money up front, which is what I think they're going to do with Timo as well. It's great. It's great for both parties.
Quality. We'll continue to see how things flesh out, and we'll talk about Timo coming up here as well. But you mentioned comes on the heel of the second time in NHL history, which is funny because sign and trades exist, say, in the NBA, my other endeavor. They happen all the time. Two in a week in an off season wouldn't be unprecedented. But just the second time, they end up signing him $50 million over 8 going.
He got 8 and 6.25 a year.
Yeah. So average of 6.25 a year. It works for him. 28 years old. Obviously, he was the longest tenured Devil going back to 2012 when they drafted him. But at 28 years old, like we've talked about, needing this mix of veteran and young talent. I just think that you have to find that value. They get back a 3rd round pick. That's all relative. But it felt like happens in other sports, doing a favor, helping a guy as he goes out the door,
100%,
and still getting value back for yourself.
100%. He wasn't signing here long term. I think we know that. Severson was staying on a 1 or 2 year deal, and Severson wanted a long term deal, and you can't blame him. And hats off to Severson. He was a great Devil. He struggled through a lot of years here in the sense of just having a bad team around him for a while.
And that part of it's a shame, by the way. It's he doesn't get the reward of getting the big contract with this team. Like, Jesper Bratt gets paid 24 years old, and he's coming into the good times as Severson just kind of had to be, guiding the ship, rudderless ship in a lot of ways for years.
And listen, I've been on him sometimes, you've been on him sometimes, some of his play, but overall, he was a great Devil. and he's a great defenseman. And I think that he's going to be, in the top 4 for the Blue Jackets. And it's a well-deserved $8 million, 8-year contract, long-term contract. So.
And he's versatile as well. And I think that's why he was going to be a pretty sought-after player on the free agent market if he fully got there. Now, taking a step away, it's still Devils tied here, but some of the rumors, we'll get back into Timo Meier here in a second with the arbitration deadline that happened today, Thursday, 5 p.m. Goalie rumors are going around right now, giving credit to Ryan Novinsky of NJ.com, listing 3 potential goalies that are going to be available this offseason and that the Devils could potentially be in on. Hellebuyck is one that we talked about. The Jets, 1 year, 6.6 remaining. There's a lot of value there. You can maybe send out VTech and then see how things progress.
We also know that Hellebuyck has said he's not going to be a long-term signing with the Jets. So you know that he's going to be on the move one way or the other.
And that can maybe create some flexibility around what you want back in return for him. Gibson from the Ducks, the 6.4 million, but on the books through 26-27, had a down season. Does that entice you? Because that would feel like if you brought him in and VTech went out, I would feel as just kind of relatively muddled as you did coming into this season.
Yeah, I don't like the contract. I don't think it's
the commitment is long too.
I don't think Gibson's a fit for us. I understand why we're looking at him, but to me, it's not the right fit.
Right, unless you're getting excited about the young goaltenders for the Devils stepping up and then saying, hey, we just need a veteran backup. But even then, the 6.4 million, the long-term commitment is a bit much. The last one is from the Predators. And that's Saros. And this is, I think, the most interesting one, just because we talk about, you send out VTech, you get back a good starter, you're washing your hands, right? It's all good. And a lower commitment in terms of the years. But this one comes in talking about, and he framed it, Ryan, over on NJ.com, saying, Nemec, excuse me, we debated that for weeks, and 2 first-round picks. That the value to get a goaltender like this would require 2 to 3 blue chip prospects, not from the Devils, around the league, and also 2 first-round picks. Now, we know what he is, a top 3 goaltender potentially in the NHL.
Yes.
Is that worth, that's an all-in, we think we win, over the next season or 2, the whole thing, Stanley Cup champions.
It depends on, I think, where we are when it comes to who we're going to be signing. I think Timo, signing here is a big factor to that. However, you're giving up a lot of your future picks for a player like that. And we got to remember that. So we're banking on who we're going to have here signing for the long term. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that Fitz is willing to jeopardize more picks that could really enhance this team, this young core, so to speak. So
build and replenish.
Wishful thinking in a way, and it'd be phenomenal to see. I don't think that's going to happen.
I think the Hellebuyck one's the one that makes the most sense, right? If you think you've seen what VTech's ceiling is, then this doesn't. It feels like a short-term opportunity. You're probably going to want the new contract, but I think that you're upgrading yourself at that league goaltender spot and safeguarding against maybe not having the young goaltender be ready yet.
I don't think that.
I feel like I'm being cryptic by not mentioning the young goaltender's name.
What, Schmidt?
Yeah, I'm just not saying.
I don't think that the Devils are going to make a move for a goalie. I really don't. I think that Schmidt and VTech are going to get a chance to do this again and run it back.
I think it makes sense too. I agree with you.
You know what I mean? So I think that you're going to see a lot of similarities to last year, obviously with some, I'm hoping a good free agent signing, especially defensemen, to get, someone back there that is going to be the stabilizer, so to speak, someone like a Gudis, from Florida.
Delicious cheese.
That's Gouda, bro. But, someone who's a physical presence that is going to play strong on the boards, I think is very important for this Devils team, especially with Nemec and Hughes, who we think are going to be, in training camp, expected to be in this starting lineup.
Yes. And, and that's the other big thing, too, here, because you talk about even going back to the goalie trade and sending out some of these assets. How are these players looked at? They're expected right now to be stepping into these new roles. It's why the sign and trade with Severson, you're opening up the opportunity for the next wave. And I think Fitzgerald is really trying to strike this balance of, yes, we just had incredible success. Yes, we want to build off of that. But remember, we talk about, did they overachieve? So if you're a Devils organization, you have to look at it as the both and. Wow, what an incredible season. But let's not forget the way we projected our next 2 or 3 seasons. 100%. And that was going to involve these young players. So letting one great season completely flip the way you think about your organization, I think would be a little bit knee-jerk reaction.
And it's people, again, talking like, the Devils going after Marner from Toronto, things like that. It's a lot of it's wishful thinking, but it's what you're going to give up in return. And it goes back to Hellebuyck. What are we going to give in return to get this great goaltender? And how much is it going to change what we're doing moving forward. Listen, I don't want to be a pessimist, and I'm not at all. For the Devils to finish top 3 in the NHL again next year is going to be a very tall task.
Sure.
We had a 13-game winning streak this year. We came off phenomenal play. We overachieved a lot of our players. And to say that we're going to stay, let's knock on wood that everybody's staying healthy. But
respect the table.
The table is nice, by the way. Home goods, right? Beautiful.
Well, let's not. I mean, they're not advertising with us yet, so we'll go ahead and wait on that. But please.
But point being, listen. If we finish in the top 3, I'm going to be ecstatic. It's going to be phenomenal. But we can't expect it. We can't next year. So to me, if you go after a player like Hellebuyck, you have more likely chance to achieve that top 3, top 4 status in the NHL. But I am completely fine with throwing Vitek and Schmidt into the fire and keeping what we had this past year into next year with some minor changes.
Yeah, and with the NHL draft coming up, I think on the back end of that, we'll start to this offseason. Hey, let's set the table of expectations going forward. And I think it should be some kind of balance around that. It need not be now, hey, what you did last year and more. Right. It's just about having consistency and being that threat in the playoff picture. Turning it back over to in-house concerns right now, Timo Meier, today, as I mentioned, was the deadline for arbitration, 5 p.m. Fitzgerald makes the move to move it to team arbitration, which reduces the qualifying offer down from $10 million, 15% less, 8.5. However, which is good, reduces that number as we know, but they maintain the rights and continue to negotiate, which is what they expect to do here. Quote from Fitzpatrick was, "We would love nothing better than to tie him up long-term. That's our goal. That's what we set out to do." And we're hoping, that's what Claude and I will go through, referring to Lemieux, former Devil, who represents Timo Meier. This could not be any more foregone conclusion territory. It's great that you brought the number down, but the bottom line is, if they're not bringing back Timo, it just feels like...
I don't want this to be another Bratt situation where, he plays this year without a contract. I don't. I want Timo to be locked up long-term. I think it's going to be front-loaded. I think it's going to be very similar to what Bratt got. I think it's going to be a little more money. I think you'll see an average, a year of 8.2, something like that. But I see it being the same, 7 or 8 years long term. Timo believes in this team. You could see that he believed in this team. I love how intense you are with that. But, realistically, he hasn't had a training camp with these young kids. Right. Think about what he can do moving forward with this team. So, I hope we don't know what he's feeling. We can assume that we have that Swiss connection here and he wants to stay here. But, let's hope that he does sign long term.
He was complimentary of the practice rink, liking the way it was, the way he was treated by the organization. So everything in terms of the sample size coming over in the trade-in season has been great for him. And now it is dollars and cents. And listen, you mentioned it. If it ends up being the same kind of range as what Bratt's contract is and it's front-loaded, it all makes sense. I again, until we hear otherwise, we're assuming that that's going to be a part of it. And right now, the Devils hold $26.5 million in cap space. Right. So they have plenty of room to make that deal and get it done, and still plenty of room to go out onto the free agent market, pursue a player, a defenseman, and then still leave something left over if they need to manipulate.
I mean, we'll talk about it later on in later episodes, but I could see a piece like Boquist and Holtz getting traded for, more of a veteran player too.
Sure.
I could see something like that happening. I think we're in agreement. Graves isn't going to sign, as unrestricted free agent. I don't think he's going to sign. I think his price tag is going to be similar to what Severson got, maybe with less years. So I don't think he fits I don't think he fits the mix of what the Devils are trying to do.
Let's pause briefly on that before we wrap up. Do you think that he goes to market, and if the market were softer than he anticipated, if it wasn't in that Severson kind of number, is there the open relationship to come back to the Devils? Because you just mentioned it there. You may just ultimately not kind of fit the model of what we want to do here, which is only a hindrance to your performance in season game to game.
I don't think Fitz is going to want to go over 4.5, and I think that Graves
so he's gone because that's going to be a low. That would be an impressively low number AAV.
Because I don't think that Fitz wants that kind of defensive player with Ball, who is really coming into his own as well. I think that veteran wise, going after someone like Gudas, who might be obviously a little bit less money. It's hard to know, right? It's hard to know what the market is. And once we see more players signed, especially defensemen, we're going to have an idea of where the Devils are going to go.
I think a Gudas, a sharp cheddar, maybe a blue. It's just something that can crumble and really spread over the top of this team.
All right, let's say this right now. Is Nemec in your top 6 defensemen next year? We know Luke Hughes is. I think we know.
He has to. Yeah, he has to be. I think, yes. I think that Nemec also is there because I believe that, again, take away this last season, the result, that would have been the plan.
Right.
If that was the plan, I don't think there's a reason to deviate from that, short of a player on the market, you go, oh, wow, what an incredible value, and we'll rotate this player in. But remember, if you go and pursue a guy like that and you keep Nemec out of the rotation,
sure.
When does that opportunity come? If you commit a big contract to somebody, then that means Nemec now becomes expendable at some point.
Yeah, I'm with you, but I don't know, because like you just said, it really depends where we go with getting another veteran defenseman. If we sign Graves, I think the Devils have to sign.
That might be too much youth and not enough experience. But what about a veteran guy that just is there to push and to battle? Smith. Okay, there you go.
Listen, Brendan Smith, we all ripped on him, but he's great for that locker room. I think that we see it.
Real problem.
I thought he played fine in the playoffs when his name was called. I really do, and a lot of.
But that's what you want, though. Yeah. The difference is like you want Smith to be, you mentioned there, a locker room guy, and when needed, not a locker room guy, and there's a real expectation, right? Because when you start to set that bar, then that's when you start to in season go, boy, what is he doing here? Why is he struggling there? Because that's too much. You're setting the bar too high for him.
It needs to be similar to what we did this year, and look how Ball kind of, his maturation over the year. It was very, very apparent, especially in the playoffs. He was a wrecking ball against the Rangers.
Yes.
So, you look at someone like Nemec, and coming into this lineup, how is he going to fare playing 82 games? Is he going to play 82 games? Is he going to be the guy if someone gets injured that comes up and he gets dressed? So, there's a lot of question marks, but again, it's going to come down to Graves. It's going to come down to the free agency and everything like that with defense.
Buddy, we'll close out just on noting that, as we said at the top of the show, the Golden Knights won their first Stanley Cup in franchise history, just 6 years into their journey. Insane. Florida, it's unfortunate. They would have liked to cross that finish line. But also,
by the way, I want not to cut you off. Kachuk is an animal.
What did he have?
To play the way
a broken spinal
sternum. Broken sternum, and apparently, like there was like articles coming out that like the guys had to dress him for Game 4. It's insane.
There's probably a point when we go to do the podcast, if Danny had to help me put my shirt on, I'm not even going to sit here and talk to you about hockey, let alone go out and play it. A lot of things did not break the right way when it came to the finals for the Panthers. But listen, NHL, man. And people have even said, it's like, dude, we get it. NHL, toughest guys in professional sports. Also, stop. Yeah. Also stop. Please, it's your sternum. It's not.
Well, even Paul Maurice said that like 3 or 4 players had broken bones on the team. It's crazy to think about. Everybody's going through that grind, of the playoffs, but congratulations to the Knights. It's pretty incredible for a 6-year franchise. They got to the Stanley Cup final in the first year. Yeah. And only 6 years in that they win the cup is unbelievable.
Are you at all concerned that it was down 43% viewership in the Stanley Cup? They were on TNT. They're not on, an ABC and NBC, a more major network. The 2 markets involved are a little bit funky. So there's a lot of factors there.
Yeah, it's a new market with Vegas. It's really building their fan base is kind of generalized to where they are right now. And Florida, the storyline was Kachuk, for a national level, and for the casual NHL fan. Us, we obviously watch the games because we love hockey and we're doing the podcast and we're diehard Devils fans, and we're looking at all players from all teams. But it's concerning, yes. But it's how everything unfolded. What are you going to do at that point?
And I think, too, when you look at that total number, you can get lost in the fact that, remember, this series felt like it was over very quickly. It did. And once that happens, the casual viewers, casual fans are going to check out. It's just like NBA Finals, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Denver Nuggets, it seemed pretty early on. You got the sense it was a matter of when they won it, not if they won it. Would it take 5 games? Would it take 6 games? And that's going to dissipate the general population from watching. And I'm not saying it probably still would have been 30%, but
let's call a spade here. The first 2 rounds were absolutely phenomenal in NHL. And the conference finals and the Stanley Cup are a little disappointing when it comes to that.
We should highlight that coming up about where the numbers were from a viewership standpoint throughout the playoffs, because that can also inform.
First round, they were incredible. First round was absolutely unbelievable, especially for the Devils Rangers, in some of the games.
And a great matchup there. Obviously, rivalry matchups matter. That being the case, my friends, that you can get us over on YouTube. You can get us on our podcast feed. We're going to go ahead and start pumping out our episodes over there as well, just so you can find us. Maybe you're driving around. Maybe you don't like looking at us. That's something that we've heard throughout our lives. And but from just a pure ear standpoint, not bad to look at. I'm not bad to look at if you're not actually looking at me. Now,
a face made for radio is what they say.
Baby. Until next time, though, we'll come back in. We'll talk about other free agent targets. What is the defenseman that we want to flesh out there, cheese or otherwise?
Yeah, talk about Halla and Tuna.
There's still there's still a lot of in-house guys here and decisions to be made that'll affect that $26.5 million of cap space.
And your boy, Miles Wood. We'll talk about Miles Wood.
You've got Miles Wood. Until next time, though, my friends, no longer will we say, may it always be gravy, because we don't know if it will be.
You got to come up with something good here, man. I'm putting you on the spot. So
Yeah.
hard right now.
You know, the bottom line is the Devils are built on gruesome twosomes. So just like the Hughes, may we never sing the blues as the New Jersey Devils progress through the offseason. We'll see you next time, guys, right here on Devils Puck Luck.
That wasn't
podcast.
You didn't even prepare that.
No.
See you guys soon.